Hi, I'm Julie Skoda, and welcome to day 5, the final day of our 5-day challenge with Unison Pastels. We've gone through a lot of stages, and you guys have a lot of great questions each time we've gone through each stage. And now we're going to finish it up today, and you'll have a beautiful painting, really sunny, light. Feels like you're in Florida with these colors. So I did start doing a little bit of detail yesterday. And we're going to get more and more detailed as we go because it's still rough in areas. We're going to develop these trees today a little bit more, finish this shoreline a little bit, and really get just a little bit more detail. But a lot of this is going to stay really loose and open and give us the illusion of the textural feel of these plants. We're not going to do every little leaf and not every little stem. So it's more of an illusion and an emotional feel to this painting. So let's get going. Okay, so I put in some of these yellows yesterday, and I'm going to go ahead and layer some of this light peachy color with it. I like this value with the yellows to tone it down just a little bit, and I think they're working together really nicely with this feel of these tall grasses. In my photo reference, it's even a little bit more orangey with the golds, and so I think this pale peachy color is a nice addition. I'm going to throw a little bit of it down into this area too, in the foreground. And the sand does have this yellowy feel, but I like toning it also with this peach color just a little bit to tone it down. I think this yellow was a little too strong in the horizon line too, so I'm going to take some of this peach and tone that down a little bit, just to soften it. Okay, so we've got some of these areas developed. This is feeling a little too even too, and I want to break that up. And I'm going to take some of the darker value of the shadow area and actually do some negative painting. So we're going to come in, break up the tops of these shapes a little bit, so that's not such of an even feel, and then break into the layer above it just to break that up a little bit. I might bring just a little bit more of it down into the foreground, kind of to weight down this corner. Just a little bit going on here. It's pretty strong in this area as well, so I want to tone this down. I'm going to use some of a little bit lighter, warmer green on top of it, just to tone that down a little bit. I want to start bringing some of these greens into the tree shape. Now this is probably still just a little bit too light and bright, so I'm going to go with a value a little bit deeper. Still warm though, it's got a nice warmth to it. A lot of the tree shapes are going to have a cooler green tone to it because it is in the distance, but there's still some warmth coming through. I'm literally turning my stick in different directions. I'm thinking about how the tree grows and breaking up these shapes. I'm going to break into the water a little bit so that that's underneath. I want to get a little bit more neutralized. I think this color it's got a little bit of blue in it, cooling it down, helping with that distance feel. Still feels very choppy. Get a little bit of that in the shadow underneath. A little bit more of it along the horizon line, toning some of this down still a little bit more. Now I want to go back into the sky color and break up these shapes. So once again, we're doing a little bit of negative painting, but it's a little too round and formed. Put a couple sky holes in, tap them in with my finger. Dig into this area a little bit. Break up in between these trees a little bit more. This is starting to have a little bit more shape. This really can be broken up quite a bit. In fact, I'm going to kind of dig down in here a little bit more and come up into here. So just break that up a little bit more. A little bit more solid feel to it. Okay, I think these feel a little bit more shaped like a tree. I'm gonna go back with this darker bluey green on top of the reds. I want an echo of that brick red, but I don't want it to be too predominant. So these tree edges are pretty hard too, the hard edge, so I'm going to try to soften it just a little bit. So as you can see, I have really lost a lot of that watercolor underpainting, but it still has influenced this whole process, and you can see parts of it peeking through and edges. It's giving me just a few spots where it peeks through. It's just a fun way to start a painting. You can always start with your pastel sticks. That works just as well. But experimenting with different media underneath your pastel can be interesting, fun, and we all have extra art supplies from trying different things, so it's another way to use them. All right, so I've built up some layers of warm and cool greens, touches of that little brick red showing through, a little bit of the deep navy blue. We've got some depth underneath here separating these two textural areas. We might want just a little bit more in a few spots to break it up. So this is pretty well developed. The thing I like to do when I'm at the end of a painting is I'll take my time and look at it, let it sit for a while. But it's always fun to take a couple colors you haven't used at all. So I've got this really nice corally color and just put a few dots in a few places where maybe you want the viewer to look. So just for a little pop of color, it draws their eye in. There's a few things going on here. We could just put a couple little marks. And there's some wild fun grasses growing in the foreground that I'm gonna just take this bright orangey yellow. I'm gonna take the little edge of it and loosely just see what happens. You know, just make a couple loose marks. Completely, they don't necessarily make sense. Sometimes this plan doesn't work, but just kind of break up some of these sections just a tiny bit, adds a little interest and more color. And I think maybe one more little step and we're almost done. There's these bright greens in the foreground, little shapes. We're gonna just put a few of those in on top to break up that section in different directions. A few areas back in with these grasses, a couple spots over here, and I think we're about done.